Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Minahan and her panel of guests bring you insightful conversations to awaken consciousness for soul growth. Come journey with us through astrology's energetic cycles and get ready to understand your path in the cosmic roots of the stars.
Today is, amazingly, Mars across from Pluto. So maybe there's a lot happening here because I'm not getting it from my end here in Hawaii. And it's the time change. I hope everybody got their clocks back. But today is November 3rd. We're in a crunch zone just before elections. I hope you all get out and vote. However you vote, just participate, because that's what life wants. And that's what life is asking with Mars opposite Pluto, which is a theme this month and next, and we'll discuss that. But right now, we are ready for this team of Kaleidoscope Visions.
Understanding the cosmic energies influencing our consciousness by the 4 major moon phases for the month, this is your Kaleidoscope Visions panel.
I'm Sue Minahan, founder of Talk Cosmos since 2018. I'm an evolutionary astrologer, consultant, speaker, writer, vibrational astrology student, Dwarf Planet University graduate, Kepler Astrology Toastmasters Club charter member. I have a fine arts music degree plus a certificate in jazz. I'm an artist, musician, and certified color energy life coach. Especially, I love mythology and esoteric philosophies.
I'm Amanda Pierce. I'm a soul-centered astrologer, blending intuition into my practice. I believe the universe is always working for our highest good and seek to empower my clients in our readings. I teach a 4-week series of empowerment-based meditation classes that connect you deeper into your own intuition and innate power. I work in communications with a passion for employee experience. I also have a BA in psychology. I'm passionate about healing and enjoy helping others create new realities and shift old paradigms.
And I'm John Chinworth, a Seattle astrologer with more than 25 years' experience. I use a blend of evolutionary, traditional, and archetypal techniques and constantly attend workshops and lectures to further hone my skills. I hold an MFA in poetics, an MA in teaching, and an astrological diploma. I've lectured at NORWAC and served on the WSAA board. I have worked in general and special education classrooms, both as a teacher and mentor. I also enjoy reading, penning poems, riding a bike, and going on road trips around the great state of Washington.
And like the Sufi poet Rumi says, you are the entire ocean in a drop. Hello, Amanda, and hi, John.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. Good to be back with you all.
It is. We are now doing the Scorpio moon phases, Kaleidoscope Visions, always working to figure out how is the life speaking to us, and it's through these lunar phases. So we will begin. It's 4 major ones. It's a systematic cycle, such as here, this little graphic indicates. It's a perpetual motion, just like life does, of changing, evolving, and it shifts our consciousness because emotionally it's how we feel. How do we feel about things, and what does that bring forth? Because that's manifestation, right? The 2 luminaries, as they're called, sun and moon, is what is all about. It's their cycle, it's their story. The moon, it only reflects the sun's light. Thankfully, it's there. It's our satellite. It's our Earth's moon. But one side stays dark all the time, which I think is fascinating. And do we really talk about that hidden private part that our moon, especially, 4th house, represents? And the sun, it is a star. It's our solar star, and it's emitting light. These quarters, the new moon just happened a couple of days ago, and archetypal symbols goes into great depth on that, so catch that, although we will cover it too. And it's at 9 degrees Scorpio on the 1st, and just in 5 days will be the first quarter, when you'll go up there and you'll see that half moon. Oh, it looks like a half moon, but it's at 17 Aquarius. And then the full moon is on the 15th at 24 Taurus. And the third quarter changes to the next element, or the element, goes from fixed to mutable, leading up to the next full moon. And it's on the 24th in Virgo, 1 degree Virgo. Any comments, you guys? No? Should we go ahead? Okay.
Yeah, let's keep moving.
Out of bound planets, we have several. Series has been since April. It'll continue till the 15th. We've covered it a bit. It has a lot to do about our nurturing ourselves through grief and how we expand that knowledge to help others. But it is serious in a lot of ways, because a lot of the globe, as we know, is going through a lot of grief for one reason.
A lot of grief, and Ceres is also about nurturing. So a big focus on nurturing as we're going through some pretty intense times right now.
Yes, that's right. Whether we can find the final answer or not, that's a good point, that nurturing. Because I was thinking that we can share something with others, but it's just for ourselves. Like, breathe.
Well, the more that you can nurture yourself, the more bounty you have to give to others. So, yeah.
Thanks, Amanda. Mercury, it's in its shadow path as of the 5th, which is just in 2 days. It's going to go retrograde at the end of the month, just at the third quarter, and we'll talk about that. And it is out of bounds. It's speaking its language, starting with the first quarter all the way through the month. It's going to be vocal. And Venus is out of bounds this entire month. And that's something to recognize too, our values. This here is a diagram that shows the whole cycle, starting with the new moon as it continues. And for those that want to listen again, you can study each of these, because we have a lot that we're going to share, because we're going to cover each one of these. And we'll begin here just to identify what is a new moon. It's a seed point. It's November 1st at 9 degrees, 35 minutes of Scorpio. And the modern ruler is Pluto, and in traditional it is Mars, which happens to be out of bounds. And Pluto is going to change signs from Capricorn to, Aquarius later on. The first quarter moon is crisis in action. It's waxing, increasing light, November 8th and 9th at 17 Aquarius, with Uranus modern and Saturn as the ruler. The full moon illuminates and culminates. It releases energy too if it isn't working out. And that's November 15th, at 24 degrees Taurus. It's always the opposite of the new moon. And it's Venus that guides it, and it's out of bounds. It's going to be, go ahead, John, you have something to say.
Well, I always think of the lunar cycle of these 4 phases as putting on a show in the theater. The new moon, you're casting and getting the show together. First quarter dress rehearsals, what's going to work, what's not going to work. A lot of crisis happening. Full moon, the show is on. And the third quarter is like the critics.
Oh, well, and that's most interesting, because guess what? It's going to be in Virgo. And Virgo does need to fix and find out the details that weren't quite right working. And so it is the critic. That's so interesting. And it's waning. That means decreasing light. And it's a crisis in consciousness. The first is in action, but now it's consciousness after that whole story. Oh, boy, we're into it. And Mercury is going to be out of bounds, and it's going to be retrograde too. So it's quite a powerful time of transformation. For those that want to explore this further, just to realize that the equator, it visibly looks different. It's either above or below the half moon, depending on situations. Let's look a bit at this theme, Mars opposite Pluto, and it partly because Mars will be going retrograde, and that's next month, but we'll be in its shadow period. And it goes between Cancer and Leo, but it's going to be working all the way from the shadow point, I think, on the 7th of November, all the way through to, I have a pre-shadow, October 5th to May 2nd.
So this is exact later today, this for the first time, but it will be ongoing for quite a while. And past when Pluto moves into Aquarius as well. So we'll have that Aquarius Leo dynamic, as well as the Cancer Capricorn dynamic we're seeing right now with the Mars opposite Pluto.
Yes, it will be exact twice more, but it will be with Pluto in Aquarius, which is next year. I didn't add that. So yes, this is such a today. Well, we're doing our changes as we speak. Mercury is a theme too, because it will be retrograde and we're in that shadow period starting on the 7th. And this stays in Sagittarius. It'll go from 6 degrees, 24 minutes, all the way to 22 degrees, 40 minutes of Sagittarius. Let's look at the new moon. It has a Sabian symbol at 10 degrees. It's always one extra. And it's a fellowship supper. John, you want to speak?
Oh, just this is a good Sabian symbol for working together and community and solidarity comes to mind with that Sabian symbol. And we're getting the election's been on my mind. So how are people finding their solidarity, and what does that mean as we get closer and closer?
Which is, I think, a fantastic energy to lean on during this period, this week and throughout the whole month. So the more we can be acting holistically and collectively and honoring ourselves and our neighbors, I think the better off we'll be, especially with this Mars-Pluto energy. I mean, there's like a really strong kind of standoff energy here, where Mars represents anger typically, and Pluto represents rage. So a lot of potential for conflict in your life or out in the world. So be safe out on the roads if you're driving, be considerate of others. And, in Washington, Oregon, and Nevada, the National Guard is on standby for potential election unrest. So this is like how much this energetic is impacting us.
And what this aspect may be asking of Americans at this time is, we're going to go through transformation. Somebody's side is not going to win and they're going to be upset. And that sets up this transformation through crisis. So whatever the results, hold what that transformation should be. Does that make sense?
It does, because
version of Pluto and Mars.
We are uncertain, of course, where that aspect might work in any individual's chart. Now, what we're showing here is a 0-degree chart. So don't look at the houses here, folks. The last one that I showed with the Sabian symbols in this particular program will show the chart for the Eastern time at Washington, D.C. But now we're looking at this. The good news is that energetically, there's hope on the horizon. I always love that. It's like, oh my goodness, because we're giving a tough assignment here to have action and transform, but there is help on the way. And I'd say that because this strong aspect at the very end degrees that Pluto makes with Mars, it's going to be retrograde, returning to this point various times throughout the next year, is also making two distinct patterns. It's a mystic triangle. See the blue and the different blues, that's a sextile and a trine. And then it's also a point of Thales, which involves that. It's like a half kite, as John, you've mentioned, which is where the opposition planets are connected to as you can see, with a sextile and a trine. But more than that, there's a kite, and that's where there's this blue. There would be a blue line, which I think I show later, across from Mercury and Neptune. But the point is, these three have so many other contributing factors. There's the vision, the communication, along with sudden changes.
These are very helpful aspects. The configurations are, they encourage you to build and be careful and to work with others. What pops out at me is also the mystic rectangle with Pluto, Mercury, then go down to Mars, Uranus. It makes one of those mystic rectangles. And to me, that is the Taurian grand configuration where you're building, but it's like this cosmic building carefully and everybody doing their part to build this beautiful thing. That's kind of cool, what's happening right now. And then with that kite, Neptune and looks like it's Mercury and Mars, that's awesome, right? Neptune, the dream, Mercury communicating that dream, and Mars like, let's take action on this, right?
And we're in that new moon phase. So we're really in that place of like deep creativity where we're birthing something. We don't really know what it's going to look like. But the more that we can consciously work that piece, I love it. I think that will help smooth out the month a bit.
Ah, good. We'll go just briefly over this one that I flipped past. There are a few conjunctions just by themselves have value. You might look at that. And Saturn is without a close aspect. This is a 3-degree aspect chart. So it could, though, I think, Amanda, you were mentioning that it really does touch the sun and the moon, which I would agree it does. That's only 3.5 degrees. It's within 4, and often I go to 4 easily.
Yeah, Saturn is trining the moon, so that's going to help kind of bring a maturity and kind of a groundedness to the energy here as we're moving through this new moon period, which is, the new moon it's dark in the sky. We don't quite know what's happening yet or how it's all going to play out. And we're just kind of learning and starting to figure it all out.
You know what I love? I have to jump in right here because we'd mentioned it earlier in our pre-chat, but Mars and Pluto, which I'd realized too, are co-rulers of Scorpio. Mars is the old one, and then when Pluto in 1930 was discovered, Pluto became that ruler, which I do embrace, but I acknowledge that many see Mars, and they're both contribute. But including Saturn rules Pluto right now. So this is really a dynamic relationship.
Well, and there's a lot here about us shifting the evolution of our lives. I mean, Pluto is your soul, and it's the unconscious, and Mars is the conscious driver of your soul's evolution. And here they're kind of in a standoff, like they're not in agreement on things, but they're both ruling that sun and moon. And so this is really helping us to find alignment in terms of where we're going in our lives.
Can we look at that Chiron-Eris conjunction?
Oh, okay.
They're in Aries, which is ruled by Mars.
Yes, exactly. So there's a lot of healing and inclusion.
Well, I was thinking a wound being irritated, the wound Chiron, the irritation Eris, disruption of a healing process, a change of direction with healing, protesting the healing process.
We'll keep this in mind. That is good.
As you work through things therapeutically, things come up and they're upsetting, and you have to work through those things too. So there's added patience needed.
Well, particularly with this water kite, which now we're emphasizing, as we brought up, as the full graphic illustrating it, with that motion of a trine that just continues in perpetuation, that really, according to vibrational astrology, Linda Barry, who's a great researcher and on a program with every equinox and solstice, and I study with her, has brought up that trines need to keep that flow going and will do anything to continue it. It's not just, a dormant activity. It's very vibrant. It's like a river rushing by. It's going to keep rushing. So that's something to consider. But this kite, and it's in water, it's emotion. And John, I know you described the kite so well with the arrow being pulled back, and go ahead.
Well, like the dark blue lines make that triangle. That's the grand trine. And going out of that is Pluto at the end with the sky blue lines going to that. And Mars is like the arrow being pulled back, and Pluto is like the point of the arrow. And so the watery motion, deep emotions, getting lost in all that or enjoying all that, a way to ground that is through Pluto, which is in Capricorn. So stepping on solid ground in a deep, meaningful way is a really good way to use this watery energy that's you're kind of enjoying.
Meaning too that since you had brought up Chiron, they're in Aries with the looks like a key and the little arrow going down, is ruled by that Mars. So you're right. Part of our process of that healing, this wound that is ever since Pluto had its return, and still since the revolution, still with Pluto in Aquarius, because it took 6 years for that war. It wasn't just happening on July 4th. Yeah, we're in the process. There's
like this collective need to have a counselor of some time so we can process through things, to have a sounding board of some kind. And you're tempted to go to your team, red or blue, and talk to your friends about what happened, but maybe there's a need to cross over and be like, okay, this will be painful to talk about, but maybe it's time to reach out here. That's the uncomfortable Eris with Chiron, maybe.
Yeah, it's inclusion and exclusion. Yeah. And so on both sides, but ultimately everybody has to be included. And that's not always simple because, as we know, the Trojan War, all about that story. Amanda, should we go on, or did you have a...
I just like the Venus opposite Jupiter here as well. Like these are the two.
We'll go on. We'll
go on
ahead. Yep, we're going on. Okay, and that brings up that we do in the next charts have one for action and one for connecting and flowing. So now, all yours.
Okay. Well, I like that Venus and Jupiter are coming together here. They are in an opposition.
I didn't include that. Oh, you're so brilliant. Thank you.
Venus is at 17 Sagittarius, Jupiter's at 20 Gemini. So oppositions, we tend to think of those as challenging, but because they're both the benefics and they bring good things. And so when they come together, there's the potential for things to work out in a way. So it brings some really nice energy to this challenging space.
Values and perspective. And for me, opposition is partly looking just at the other. It's realizing and it's working with it in some fashion, which means how do you think about the other? If it's negative, it's going to be difficult. But if you embrace it, and you're right, with this, it's not, it could be about the law. John, what do you think? About the whole thing.
The whole thing, everything all together.
Yeah, before we go to the next slide.
My brain was just riffing now with Venus being with Pallas Athena, Pallas adding that strategy.
Oh, yeah.
And the cool-headedness, which I think is really lovely.
And Venus is out of bounds.
I think those two goddesses probably work very well together, actually.
Yes, they do. Well,
there's a lot of potential with the out of bounds for it to something to come out of the blue or just be inspired. It's Venus in Sagittarius, which is, it likes to, mentally go out there and come up with
ruled by Jupiter, huh?
Ruled by Jupiter. It's also like with Venus and Jupiter, there can be an importance around relationships here. And you can see that Juno is square that Mars and Pluto opposition as well. So that's another relationship piece brought in here.
Very
and
strong.
Venus is the ruler of Juno in this case. So
yes.
So I like that for helping to kind of, things may come forward, issues may come forward, but it's good that they're coming forward. We want to see them so that we can then start to work through it.
It's new alliances. I know that Juno often represents our alliances. Boy. Well, we have...
Could I speak to that Venus in Sagittarius?
Okay.
I have that natally. To me, Venus in Sagittarius is not being afraid to meet different kinds of people and being open to that. That's one of the great gifts of Venus.
It's an adventure, right?
Exactly.
It's an adventure. There's a description in that unknown that because relationships do mirror us, and if we're brave about it, it's like, okay, let's move on. Let's move into it.
And I have Jupiter and Gemini natally, so
Right on.
I can speak to all of it. I mean, like just being curious and being open to different ways of thinking about things, and really kind of getting passionate about, oh, well, what if we thought about this differently?
That's a beautiful part of it. Yes, yeah. Amanda, because new information shifts the recipe or the cookbook or whatever, however we say it. Well, we have a couple of minutes here before we cut away. Let's look at what's constructive. I think I have a couple of these, but there is that point of Thales, which is a half sail. That's where you have the opposition that we know. And here, though, it's Mercury that is, well, there's many of them. There's several, as we can say, every straight red line. And now I finally brought up the one that you were talking about, Amanda, with Venus and Jupiter, is making a Thales a constructive point, so that Chiron and Eris that you were mentioning, John, is working hard with that whole new philosophy of values that we were just talking about, with Venus going out of bounds. And then Mercury
really being asked to work and be kind and accept each other and not be afraid to ask questions and to listen and to see the differences and be, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, and
I'm glad I know that now. I like what I'm learning now, just to carry that with you. And even it could be uncomfortable. Eris, Chiron, it might feel something totally new. You don't like it, but stick with it and see what you can learn and listen,
Mm-hmm. Because then we can bring them those visions with Neptune and heal a bit. Yes.
And it touches that Chiron especially touches the Jupiter and Venus that we were just talking about. So I like that for being open to new relationships, new people in your lives, and new perspectives from others.
All right. Well, we will return with Kaleidoscope Visions, because I think the next one is our little breakaway. So stay tuned. We're here. We have the whole next first quarter, full moon, and third quarter. And we wanted to share. Thank you. While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. We are currently in the yin period of Scorpio, traditionally ruled by Mars, now ruled by Pluto. By departing a cycle based on comparison between extreme energies finding balance, Scorpio commits a relationship to exchange resources, experiencing power and powerlessness for the purpose of soul growth transformation. As a fixed water sign that is extreme, intense, and secretively deep, Scorpio's passionate nature questions the psychology and mystery concerning life and death.
This is Martha Norwalk every Sunday morning beginning at 9 a.m. Thanks in part to Natasha Venter at intuitiveclarifications.com. We cover the world of animals. This week, November 10th, it's BEST, Bioenergetic Synchronization Technique, Neuroenergetic Balancing, Rasmussen Reset, and Energy Codes Sunday. Dr. Nels Rasmussen and Sister Linda Rasmussen join us. Together, they'll take your calls and help you or your animal friends with emotional, behavioral, or physical issues. Hope you can join us. Martha Norwalk's Animal World, Sunday morning, 9 a.m. to noon, right here on Alternative Talk, AM 1150.
Talk Cosmos brings insightful conversations to awaken consciousness for the soul growth with hour-long programs every Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific on KKNW. Talk Cosmos weekly programs are also available to watch live on the Talk Cosmos YouTube channel and Facebook page. While you're there, make sure you click the like and subscribe buttons so you get the full Talk Cosmos experience. Or if you'd rather listen to the show archives with audio only, the entire podcast collection since 2018 is available on most podcast carriers. And to find out about upcoming programs, sign up for the newsletter at talkcosmos.com. So grab your coffee, tea, or kombucha and enjoy the show.
Conversation you won't find on the rest of the dial. Alternative Talk 1150.
Hi, here we are again. So we will continue just with our little break. We have Amanda Pierce. You can contact her at amandamoonastrology@gmail.com. John Chinworth at skypathastro.com, and myself, Talk Cosmos. I have coming up, well, this is just a quick review. Fall equinox vibrations, which is through this entire period. It's fascinating. You might check that to see the ongoing themes that we're all experiencing. It's a real science that explains and explores really consciousness. And then we had last week Pluto's last gasp in Capricorn. Actually, it wasn't last week, it was last month. And that's all about Pluto and Capricorn right now with Pluto Buzz. Not Pluto Buzz, Planet Buzz. Oh boy. Swing States was just prior, but we will have a following one because we're in the swing states right now. But there will be another one in November on the 20th, I believe. And last week was the Scorpio New Moon at more extent. And myself, I'm in a playlist with Liz Machette. So thank you for joining us, and let's get back to our business. We have the first quarter moon, and that's happening in a few days on the 9th. Today is the 3rd, so it's a week away, actually. It's a little bit of time. This is the Sabian symbol at 18 degrees Aquarius. A man's secret motives are being publicly unmasked. So that's that unmasking of motives. It's really pronounced.
A call for investigation, to probe something, to find out what's going on, maybe. That's what I think about when I think of the Sabian symbol.
Yeah, it's rather incredible. Go ahead, Amanda. I think you're going to say something.
It's hard not to think about the election with this Sabian symbol. You know, I don't know exactly what that's going to mean, but it does look telling.
It is a square. There is action involved. And again, to go back to squares are purely action. It can become offensive because one action is very self-motivated and it doesn't look at the boundaries, and that's the problem. So it shall be, but it's in an air sign. The moon is in Aquarius, so it is a group. Hopefully it's more mental. We'll see what happens on that regard. But
maybe it's a calling to be accountable with how we do the voting, right?
Well, we are accountable, I think. But yes,
some say better than others.
Well, I don't know. But anyway, that's an ongoing theme. So here we have the first quarter at 17 degrees, 19 minutes, and that's on the 9th of October. And on the East Coast time, that's just after midnight, 55 minutes and 13 seconds a.m. So the action, elements will be what we see. And we have the out-of-bound planets, my goodness, Ceres, Venus, and Mercury that'll be continuing through.
Yeah, so this is like the first moon is the continuation from the new moon where it's all dark and we're just starting to get the information. And this first quarter moon is the period where we start to really take action. And it's not necessarily the best final action, but we're starting that process. And so it's outward action in our lives, so out in our environment. And again, we see the Pluto-Mars opposition. This time, Mars has moved into Leo, where it's a little bit stronger. It's Mars is not super fond of being in Cancer.
No, it's more more safety oriented,
Yeah.
and cautious before it acts.
It's harder to take action or direct action with Mars in Cancer. So here, Mars in Leo, it wants to get out there and it wants to like be seen, and it wants to put on a show and get things done. So yeah, we're going to see a little bit more like that. It was a little bit immobilized by Pluto in the previous week. So,
and with its ruler, the sun in Scorpio, it flips right back to that Pluto.
The sun and Mars are in mutual reception. They're in each other's signs. So they're working together to do this thing. I always picture Mars, Aries, Leo, or Mars, Sun together. I think of the general of the army. Now I have command, which can be okay, you can get things done, or it can be like, what kind of a general is this?
Well, and then Venus now is in really an action-oriented idea with its visions in Neptune, which is in Pisces. So there's vision galore, or else it could be imagination, which is on the positive, or it could be total illusion, and it could be overwhelm.
It makes me wonder with the outer bounds, is it more illusional, and it's a little bit out there and extreme with Venus out of bounds?
Well, I think in all of this, it's my way, our way versus that's the way. It is pretty strong. It is, as we know, it's one phase. Now it has its action, and of course this will be after the election, and we don't know what's happening with Middle East, with Ukraine and Israel, that are seemingly taking extra actions too, because this is not with the houses. This is a 0-degree chart. So everybody globally is experiencing some challenges of how to move forward.
Yeah, and the best action may not be super clear right now, especially with that Venus-Neptune square happening. We're in this first quarter phase where it's about taking action, but we may not be able to see it all, what we need to take the best action. So just do your best. And I think the best thing we can do is stay in tune with our guidance systems and don't really act until it's the right time. And I mean like have a knowingness about that. And I think the moon trine Jupiter as well in this chart is supportive of that.
Well, we'll get to that. And what's really nice though, too, I'm realizing what you're saying really emphasizes Jupiter here in Mercury, that it is now in mutual reception with Mercury that's out of bounds, that will be, now it's in its shadow path time. It started on the 7th, just a couple of days ahead. And therefore we're building information to build, but we don't know yet. Is that inconjunct 150 degrees where we don't see the pattern yet? So here we have the connecting, flowing aspects. And I think you were mentioning, Amanda, that again.
Yeah, just tuning into your knowingness. That Jupiter is known for its intuition. And so however that works for you, whether you do that through meditation or being out in nature, whatever, find that space that helps you kind of connect into what's the best action forward.
I think there's also a calling to just be comfortable with the discomfort. Remember that it's rocky right now. Might not like what you're feeling. Wait it out.
Yeah. That is a very wise
and that's an action too. Sorry, Sue, go ahead.
I'm thinking Chiron Eris together.
No, but it's wise with manifestation, because we all get our ideal, and we learn more and more as we go into the metaphysical part, that we don't always know how that's going to result, the form of it. It's a give and take. It's going with signs, and it's going with Yeah. But here we have, with the intuition, look at that. There's this mini trine with, well, it's not quite a mini trine. It could be. Uranus and Neptune have this sextile going on, and Neptune with Pluto. So there's so much transformation. And then again with Pluto and all of these outer
Yeah, I think it
planets.
includes Chiron and not Eris, because Eris is a little bit out of orb. So it'd
Yeah.
be Chiron to the moon, to Jupiter.
Well, then we move into, well, I guess this is the full moon phase. That was still the first. Oh my goodness, I was wrong about that. Yeah, pardon me. That was action and crisis. Okay, this is the full moon, 25 degrees Taurus, and the 24 degrees Taurus, and the Sabian's 25. A vast public park. It's how we enjoy things, and we've earned this work towards. That's our goal, to enjoy the collective.
Common ground, mutual understanding, shared goals. What can we do together? How does it help the collective?
A public park is, it's paid by everybody, by our taxes. So this is something that we're all paying into, and it's here for all of our enjoyment.
And for us to take care of. So there's a call for a little bit of stewardship here.
Yeah.
We don't want to destroy the whole thing, even though our guy didn't win. It's like we still have a collective here that's actually very beautiful.
Or gal, whichever it is. Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, we don't know,
yes.
guy or gal, the person. I mean, we really don't know at this point. Well, let's look at how it is illumination, and it culminates and releases. And it will be on the 15th of November. Oh, yeah. And East Coast time, it's in the afternoon, 4:28 with 15 seconds. So just looking at this, again, we have the nodes are being activated by Venus, which is out of bounds. So it's really a matter of self and other. That's one of the big features, along with that Juno relationships that have activation that we ongoing.
I think the biggest piece is here is that Uranus conjunct the moon. So this is the full moon is like the moon is full in the sky. It's fully illuminated. We have the information here now. And there's something that may not be super comfortable that we learn. Something unexpected may come forward. And really, this is about us breaking free from whatever we're tied to emotionally that's not serving us anymore. Some type of habits or just something that has to do with the emotions.
That's very astute. Thank you. What's connecting us and flowing to support us is, Venus is working with our relationships and deep transformation. In Scorpio, of course, it matters. It's like, is this supporting my soul growth or not? What's the values associated? And Venus is out of bounds. So it's the structure of it. It's really building that. And then we have this mini trine over here with as
starting to separate.
Kind of. Yeah, it's not quite a mini trine. Yeah.
Quintiles are taking a circle and divided into fifths, and it's related to the fifth sign Leo, and of course the sun in creativity, and the fifth house of creativity. When you see a collection of quintiles in a chart, it's like, how can we creatively work on things? So minds are open, willing to work together, love new ideas. Very hopeful.
And where do you see that?
The quintiles, the sky blue lines.
No, those are actually because of my thing. I'm not. They're sextiles.
You're right, they are.
Yeah,
okay.
No, that's okay. I know it's a little bit.
That's still there because
I don't get a
sextiles are
choice.
creativity. They're like working together, so there's still teamwork.
It is connecting. Yes, it is. It's like this and that. So
on my chart system, my quintiles are sky blue.
Yes, and they usually are. No, they usually are. And well, thanks for bringing attention. Others might think the same, but we have that restriction with the point with it. Okay, constructive is the point of Thales, because we have more after this to. Wow, look at those go ahead. Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah, can I say something here about Venus out of bounds? So Venus is the ruler of that moon as well. So it's bringing this out of bounds energy to this full moon and to whatever we're seeing. And so we know out of bounds can be outside of the norm. It's also, Venus is also square the nodes here. So this is a there's a lot of relationship and relating themes coming forward during the full moon. And because Venus is in Capricorn, that could be around boundaries or how you structure your relationships and kind of evaluating what's working and what's not working. The resolution node in this case would be the South node. And so that's in Libra. So it's more about coming together and finding harmony as opposed to going it alone on your own. And I like that for, all the things that we've been saying about so far about how to approach this month and these different weeks. It is about, being in it together with people, and how can we work that out instead of getting really divisive.
Shall we move to because it shifts. Like here, we're going to do the third quarter, and I will bring up right here what you're to follow up, Amanda, because we have new themes. Pluto will be moving into Aquarius, and Mercury will be retrograde. We've been in the path, the first pre-shadow path, but it will start its retrograde on the 25th. So we can return to this. Let's look at the Sabian symbol. A large white cross dominates the landscape. That's for 2 degrees Virgo. And it's growth. It's through suffering, but often that's the artistic style of finding.
This Sabian symbol, I think of gentle strength, fixity, and dependability. It's like the solidity of the church always being there when you need to go there. So the systems that we have, I think they will support us if we're willing to be patient and work with them within that system. And I like this at the end of this cycle, that the end node is this stability. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's sacredness too, and
Sure.
and liberating in that sense through the ordeal. Mm-hmm. Really, it is helpful.
And I feel like the really big piece here is Aquarius Pluto is finally moving into Aquarius for the last time. So we will be done with Pluto.
I'm done with it. I don't know about you.
No.
Well, it does bring in Uranus too, which is that sudden, and Uranus is very, in vibrational astrology, it's been determined through research. It means right this moment in time, because time relegates everything. And with Saturn, it means Uranus doesn't care about the past or the future. It's just right this second. So we're going to be in an immediate zone.
And the last quarter moon, this is the phase where we're doing some inward action and inward review of how things have gone. We're making adjustments, and we're getting new perspectives coming forward. And I think that will be big with Pluto shifting into Aquarius. So we're really going to start seeing that. And there's going to be a lot that comes up this month for everyone. And this feels like we're starting to integrate it all. And we're stepping into a new world with Pluto and Aquarius. And it's everything that we've been talking about previous to this point today on this show is felt very Aquarian. It's, about like connecting and valuing the collective and valuing community, how we're all working together. So yeah. It feels like we're right on the verge of it.
There have been 5 conjunctions. This is the last conjunction at 0 degrees Aquarius. And I will say, too, that by being in the present, I'm reminded that that's where the power is. We have power if we live mindfully in the present. So Uranus is helping us with that, although it can be sudden, apparently, but there's power.
And Mars is trying the North Node here, and I really like that for the support it provides for us to kind of be brave and take our next steps forward, whatever that is on our destiny path. I think that the path forward and the steps forward may be inward. We may need to take some action in how we're seeing things and how we're.
It's in that Thales point again, which means it has connections there.
It feeds into a third quarter moon, and the final parts of a waning phase of the moon is taking what you've learned and not only processing what you've learned, but sharing that with others, teaching others. This is my understanding of this, and to share and to listen.
I like that. Yeah.
So let's see if there's any. It is a square that you're bringing up, and it will be, the sun is actually in Sagittarius. That's another huge difference. The moon in Virgo. It's that last quarter before it becomes the new moon in Sag. So we know that Pluto's in Aquarius. And as we mentioned, more actions with, alliances and the flow. Is there anything else before we go into our... Okay, here we go. Our soup time, our new introduction. Every session, we're coming up with a personal feedback of the soup in our language, in our charts, but more our favorite kind of soup. And John, you mentioned spicy. I like that.
Well, yeah, I was going with Pluto and Mars, and my favorite kind of soup is a tomato soup, but I spice it up by adding green chilies to it, black pepper, and it's pretty good.
I was thinking of a curry. I love it.
I would do a curry. But with the tomato soup, you have to, of course, have the grilled cheese sandwich. And I put green chilies on that as well, coming from Arizona.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Chilies.
Originally from Arizona.
Well, when I was thinking about the soup, I was thinking about it in terms of like, what's going to really hit the spot this month with the energies. And so I was thinking, it's like a really nourishing chicken soup with like some homemade broth, something that's really going to nourish us and ground us. That would be my soup for the month.
It heals the bones, actually. It heals. There is something in a chicken broth. I mean, it's so antiquated as far as legendary lore, but there's truth to it, that the broth is very healing. And if it is bones, of course, Saturn is so involved right now as Pluto's in Saturn.
Yeah. And just it just feels nurturing. So I like that for us getting through this period.
Well, we have a good menu here. Where is it in your charts? What's happening? What's your own soup happening?
Oh man.
What are the degrees of Mars Pluto again?
29.
Oh, that's right. Thank you.
The anoretic. Well, for me, 29 Capricorn is entering on the cusp of my fifth house, and 29 Cancer would be, of course, entering my 11th. So I am thinking of expanding my talk show a bit. I might even go into a new station. Won't drop this at all, but just borrow some of these over there. That's one idea. But also I am reading the Iliad, and it's teaching a lot about war. It's teaching a lot. At any rate, share, please. We have a couple of minutes. We have about a minute.
Well, I use the whole sign house system. So when I'm looking at Pluto shifting into a new sign, it's also shifting into a new house. So for me, that's moving from the 9th house to the 10th house. And career stuff is definitely up for me. Like, where am I going? What am I doing? Is it time for a change? So that has been on my mind. Also, the Pluto-Mars opposition, literal explosion in my house. The gas furnace had like a little mini explosion, and I saw the fire like come out of it. So these things can literally happen. That was earlier this morning. I'm waiting for someone to come today, because the gas company came. They had to shut off the gas. I don't have any gas right now. Gotta get it fixed. Also, they found a couple gas leaks. So like, stuff is happening.
Yeah, that's true. I myself had the plumbing issues several weeks ago with the Scorpio, all that with the toilet and et cetera, the washer dryer. But it's healed now. We're moving ahead.
It's better to know these things, right? You know, you got to know them.
John, did you have a quick thought there?
Just Pluto will be going into my 9th, and I think about how I want to travel more.
Ooh, yes. Well, we are traveling in spirit and we're traveling with heart. And that's really metaphysical because spirit and love do transmute. I mean, they reach, they travel. That's why people pray, people have vows. It's a beautiful thing. So thank you very much. And folks, blessings to you. And may your road find balance of meaningfulness and growth. And we're all in it together, one way or the other. Thank you. And vote,
everyone.
Thank you for joining an insightful conversation on Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Minahan and her panel of guests awaken consciousness by connecting soul growth patterns with astrology's energetic cycles. Be sure to tune in next Sunday, 1 p.m. Pacific Time, to continue your journey through the roots of the cosmic pathway.